Hi, I'm Joe Bolen and welcome to learning about VisualBasic.net. We've been working on a text editor project and we're ready to add to our text editor project a timer component into our project to keep track of the state of different things in our project. But before we get started, let's take a look at our documentation for this project and for others. The main code for this project, as well as other projects that I've produced, are out at pastebin.com/u/jboh. There you'll have the source code for everything that we've done thus far, and you can pull that code into your own project, modify it, or use it to study in more detail the concepts introduced in this video. Also, the main form, the print screen of the text editor, is out at Imager, and you can take a look at it and get an idea of the design that I had for the text editor. And then the other videos related to the text editor, as well as all the VisualBasic.net videos that I produced, is out at YouTube at Bolen Presents. So if you'd like to, pause your video at this time and copy down those links, and then afterwards go out and take a look to study more in detail the information that I provided to you in this video. Let's go into Visual Studio and then go to the Windows Designer component and take a look at our main screen. And one of the things that I'm concerned about that I'm going to address in this video is the state of our different buttons as well as our MenuToolStripItems on that we have in place. Not all of these buttons are really necessary to be enabled unless a certain state for them exists. For example, there's no point in trying to print from our menu strip if I have no data in my text box. Also, cut and copy and paste, those things require that I've selected something. Then if I want to do something else, what I'm going to do is take a look at the state of my program at the time to see if the button should be enabled or not. And we're going to do that with the timer control component. And I'm going to go to the toolbox, and I've already selected the component area, and I'm going to double click on timer, which will put timer 1 in my component tray. So I'm double clicking, and now we'll go over here to the component tray, and you'll see timer 1 has been put in. We'll leave it with its default name, timer 1, and you'll see that there are a couple of properties, and we're going to just set those in design time versus doing it in code this time. And one of the things we want to do is we're going to enable the timer. There's no reason to wait to enable it to a certain point in time. We can start off initially with it enabled, so I'm going to hit enable, make it true. And also the interval. Now the interval is in milliseconds, and we don't want it too frequently because we'll end up doing the timer tick event more than we'll be doing other things. Also, we don't want it too long an interval because we want it to update the states so they're ready to go when we need those changes in our program. So I'm going to go with 1.5 seconds, which is 1500 milliseconds. And I'm going to set that, and that gets our property set. So we've enabled it, and we set the interval for 1500 milliseconds or 1.5 seconds. Now the event associated with the timer is the tick event. So I'm just going to click on that here, or I could have come down to the component tray and double clicked on it, but I'll just click here and we'll create the timer tick event in our code. Let's go to our code now, and you'll see the tick event is in place, and this event will fire off every time we have the timer hit the point where we've set the interval. In this case, we've set it for 1.5 seconds. So every 1.5 seconds, this procedure will fire off. Well, let me change the code here and add in what I've already created so we can save some time. So I'm going to go bring that in. I'm copying it in, and then I'm just going to replace right over that code, and we'll see what I have done. Okay, let's go back up here to the top, and here's our timer tick event, and this will enable or disable our menu items and our tool strip buttons based off of the state of things in there. And I've documented here that I've set the enable to true, and also the interval is at 1.5 seconds, so that you can see that in case you forget to set that in design time. Now, one of the things I'm going to be looking at is whether I can do an undo or not. So based off of if I have my undo able, I'll set it to true or false. One of the simple things I'll look at. Also, if my text box has some length to it, in other words, it's not null or empty, then I'm going to be able to turn on my tool strip items for cut and copy, as well as delete, or turn them off if I have no length in my text box. So I have to have something in my text box to justify turning on my cut, copy, and delete in my tool strip. Also, if my text box has nothing in it, then there's no purpose to try to do a save or a print preview or a find or replace or select all, because there's no text. But if I do have text, then I want to turn those all on. And also I want to look at if I have my text box modified, I want to make certain that I enable my save option so that definitely the user can choose to save it. So if we have those states set, we're going to take care of it. We're going to also make certain the save as is available if I have something there to save. And also I could print it, I can preview it. Also I can use the find in there and the replace as well. And if I also have my global find string that we defined at the beginning of our program in the class area, if it has a value, then I'll be able to do a find next. Otherwise, I want to disable the find next. So I'm doing that through this part of the code. And of course, if I have some text, I also want to enable the select all to be enabled so that we can select all the text if we'd like in our text box. So basically what we're doing is looking at the conditions within our text box and also some of the states, and then setting the menu strip accordingly. And as I add something or change something, the values here for the tool strips and tool strip buttons will change. So let's watch this code run now and see how our buttons enable and disable accordingly. Okay, let me bring this up. We've got it compiled at this point, and notice right off the get-go that our save button, our print button, our cut and copy buttons are disabled. I have nothing there to save. Also, you'll see up in the menu strip that those are also disabled on that, and we'll see it over here as well. So that state has already been set by the fact I have no data there. Well, let's put some data in there. So I'll pull in a file. I'm going to go out and grab real quickly Mr. Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. And we'll see now that I pulled data in here, there's no point to save yet because I haven't changed anything. But my printing ability has turned on. And you'll see now I can do a print preview on that and see that information for purposes of printing. But there's no need to do save since I haven't changed anything. Now I can also come over here and you'll see there's no cut or copy, but I do have select all, and I can do a find and replace. Let's change something. Let's say I want to change the date for some reason, which is not right, but we'll change it. By the mere fact I've changed it, you notice now my save button has been enabled on that. Now if I select something like this, you'll watch and you'll see that my cut and copy have been enabled as well on that. If I deselect it, they'll gray out. But if I select it and it's selected text, they'll be highlighted and enabled. On that, same is true up in the area here, they're also enabled, or if I deselect it, you'll now see it grayed out. So let me also remember that we have the undo, and I changed this from 1863 to 1862. So our undo is enabled. I'm going to click on it and change it back, and we can see that being in place. So basically what we're doing is every 1.5 seconds we're examining what we have within our text box. We're looking to see if we've selected some text, and if we have selected text, we want to enable the keys or the tool strip and menu strip with the options that we want to use on that. If I have it not selected, they'll gray out and not be an option for the user. Also, if our text changes, in this case we changed the date, even though we changed it back, the system thinks that it has been changed, so it's giving us the option to save it on that. We always have the option to do a save as, though, because we might want to save it as a different name, even though we haven't changed the text itself. So save as is one of those that we do allow to occur on that if we have not changed our text. So those are a couple things we want to remember as we're doing it. This makes this program just a little bit nicer and gives the user a little bit more direction as to what options are available at the time that makes sense in terms of the context of the program. And all we did is we coded just a few things in the background to take care of our code. And one of the things to remember is to sort of study through your different menu options that you've coded into your program and ask yourself, what is valid for these options? What kinds of states do I have to have in place? For example, if I have the ability to undo something, then I'm going to be able to turn on the undo option. If I have some text selected, then I'm going to turn on the cut and copy and delete options. If I have some text selected, then I want to be able to save it and print it based off of that. And also, if I have it set so that I have something to do a find on a word, I want to enable those kinds of things. So it's very simple, but it adds a little bit extra to your program. Well, we're coming close to the end of our text editor project. We have one other area that I'm going to add to it, and that is to allow the user to customize the text editor so that we preserve the Windows location of the text editor, the size of the window, as well as the font and the font color that the user likes. So if the user really likes a certain font and a certain size, they don't have to set it every time. We'll talk about that in our next video when we look at applied settings. So until next time, go out to pastebin.com/u/jboh. Take a look at the code on that. Take a look at all the code for their text editor project as well to learn about it, and watch some of the other videos in the series. And until then, get your hands dirty in the code and take care.